Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to Comics Today. This is a show that we do on Wednesday to celebrate the best day of the week, that being New Comic Book Day. And as a reminder, the show that you may be watching live right now is actually going to be rebroadcast on the podcast, which is available on your preferred podcasting platform, whatever that might be, whether it be Apple or Podbean or Spotify. We are available there, and that way you could take a little bit of Reggie on the go. So in the show that we're going to do right now, we are going to spend some time talking a little bit about the scandals that are out there that are impacting the collectible market. And I'm not just talking about comics, I'm talking all collectibles have been impacted by some scandal or another. But we're not going to talk about the scandals per se versus the impact that these scandals might have on us as collectors, investors, and speculators. So I'm going to have several guests on that are going to help me to kind of make sense of some of this stuff. And we're going to talk through what we should be doing different, if anything at all. And so the goal is to have everybody to walk away with a few different perspectives on how they should be thinking about what has been a tumultuous period, to be honest with you. It seems like every week, if not, every other day, there is something that is coming out. And I want to spend some time talking about it. And like I said, I'm going to have some guests on that are going to help me to make sense of this stuff. And we're going to hear different perspectives over the course of the time that we have together. But before we get to that conversation, I want to go to the chat because this whole thing is about the celebration of comics. And so I want to go to the chat to see what it is that you may have picked up at your LCS today. If you made it to the LCS, let me know what it is that you picked up. If you read something and we should put it on the top of our reading stack, I want to know what that book is so that we can prioritize it. If you didn't make it to the LCS, but you picked up some books somewhere, I want to know about that too. And I will tell you, I picked up a really cool book from Boom Studios. They had this thing, I think it was like 250 copies of a book or something like that. I went ahead and picked up a copy of that. Shout out to Boom Studios for doing some really big stuff. And then I also read Nice House on the Lake. And I will tell you, if you read that book, take some time to read the letters, the notes that are being written, because there is some hilarity that is going on in those notes. And take some time to read that. Don't just read the comic, read the notes that are coming up. And as a reminder, we are still going to be dropping one additional video this week, tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And in that video, you will be given an opportunity to win some really awesome books. These are 3 spec books that we actually highlighted in a previous Blue Ocean spec video. And the Bratton boys, the Bratton brothers, have graciously donated G.I. Joe issue number 4, Sandman issue number 19, and Justice League issue number 19 as well, to be given away to one lucky subscriber in North America. So do not miss that video. Do not miss your opportunity to score a really awesome book. With that said, I'm going to go to the chat here and see what it is that some of you guys may have picked up. John, I see you first, and he says, no trip to the LCS, had to work. Found a stack of signed comic scripts. Hey, Alan Moore, you can't go wrong with that, okay, brother? You can't go wrong with that. And anything that you can find for free is a score for sure. Joey the Stuntmaster, shout out to Joey and his dad for hooking me up with a really awesome book recently. What is that? Revelations 3, Masters of the Universe, Batman, Catwoman, issue number 7, Batman, issue number 112, Infinite Frontier, Nice House 4. That was a good read. That was a good read. ASM 73, Daredevil 34 are some of the books that Joey and Dad picked up. What is this? Steve White, A Nice House on the Lake is my big pick of the week as well. And the Me You Love in the Dark. What is it? The Me You Love in the Dark. Is it issue 2 or 3? I think it's probably 2 at this point. I am looking forward to reading that one. I have not, but I'm looking forward to reading that. But Nice House on a Lake, man, it's just getting better. It really is just getting better. So I'm definitely enjoying that. Let me go back to the chat. Let me scroll up because there was another comment. Hold on. Hydra is saying nothing from the LCS, but been reading old school Web of Spider-Man. Brother, back in the day, that was the only thing I could afford. I could not afford ASM I did not enjoy Spectacular, even though I bought it occasionally. The Web of Spider-Man was my jam. I used to get the subscription sent to the house. It used to come in the blue and white poly bag right to the house. It was great. It was great. I think I paid like $23 for that. I can't remember what year it was, but I remember getting Web of back in the day. So shout out to you for sparking that memory. Scrolling through the comments, my Canadian brother Rush Diehard is in the house. It is good to see you, my friend. Scrolling through, Rush says he picked up all the indies. That's what's up. Miscellaneous T says he picked up Masters of the Universe, Revelations 3, Ordinary Gods, and Extreme Carnage Toxin. I have not heard of those last two books, but I have a feeling that we may see that comment a couple of more times in here. There you go. There's one of them right there. Got ASM and Toxin and 15 books of who knows what. Scrolling through, fantastic. Picked up earlier, had my pull from a couple of weeks to pick up, notably off the top of my head, The Trial of Magneto and the Me You Love in the Dark issue number 2. Fingers crossed that issue is good. Issue 1 intrigued me. I am waiting to see what happens with issue 2. Again, I have never really read Scotty Young's work before. This is my first time reading it. So far, so good. Fingers crossed. Issue 2 is good. What is that? Pad Bear says, nice house on the lake, the Me You Love in the Dark, and Not All Robots. My man Milt from Milt's Comics sent me a message saying that he was not going to join. He got some really awesome tickets or something like that to a game tonight. But he also recommended Not All Robots. And I want to say I read issue number 1 of that. That's where the robots are in charge of everything and humans are essentially well-kept pets. And I read it. I thought it was interesting. Again, let's see where it goes, because you can write a good issue. Can you tell me a good story over time that keeps my interest? That is the question. So fingers crossed. YZ says, couldn't get anything, has to save some money. I respect that. I respect that. I have a deal on the table right now that I am thinking I may have to pass on because of that very reason right there. Brother B says, picked up Black Manta, the Me You Love in the Dark 2, and Kazar issue number 1. That's what's up. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Seems like a healthy number of people made it to the LCS today, which is good. I do have a video that's going to be coming out, which is like my 3-week recap of all the books that I did not pick up for basically 3 weeks. Sometimes I get lazy, people. I have to tell you, between the travel that I had to do and then the fact that I got super lazy, I did not make it to the LCS. Mark is in the house. How you doing, brother? He says he picked up Nice House and The Conjuring and then Batman 112. That's what's up. That's what's up. Good stuff. All right. So I want to save time for the conversation that we are going to have. So I want to make a little bit of a segue. So if folks came in a little bit late, what we are essentially going to talk about over the course of this live stream, this podcast, however you are choosing to consume it, we are going to spend some time talking about not necessarily the scandals that have impacted the collectible market, but what we are instead going to talk about is what we as collectors, investors, and speculators should be doing in light of what has been coming out. And as I was preparing for the show, I had to go back in my own mind to think about some of the scandals, because there have been a lot, and we have spoken about them in various amounts of detail over the last couple of weeks. But we are talking about things like Variant Gate. And for those that don't know, Variant Gate is essentially where some high ratio variants, some exclusive variants found their way into 3-packs at Walmart. And that was a little bit of a scandal. I don't know that we still understand how that occurred, but it did occur. We have heard and seen some possible shenanigans around COA, certificates of authenticity. Some of the largest producers of sports cards have been wrapped up in some controversies with auto signatures and supposedly exclusive cards showing up with the exact same number, which people don't quite understand. And again, I'm not a card guy, but I've been trying to understand it. We've seen forged yet verified signatures come through grading companies. We've also seen and heard a lot of talk about video game market manipulation. And so again, the goal here isn't necessarily to talk about these scandals per se, versus to talk about what we should be doing in light of what is happening. So I actually have a couple of guests that I want to invite on that are going to help me to talk through this just a little bit. And in each one of the guests, I think brings a little something different to the conversation that I hope and that I believe will reveal itself over the course of the time that we have together. The very first guest that I want to bring on is my man Neo Cards and Comics. Neo, it is good to see you, brother.
Reggie, what's going on, buddy?
I cannot call it, which means that I'm doing pretty good. It's good. It's good to see you, my friend.
You too.
And the next guest that I want to introduce is Luke from Hydra Collectibles. Luke, it is a pleasure, sir.
Thanks, Reggie. Thanks for having me on.
So how much coffee have you had right now? Because it is pretty late in your neck of the woods. So how much caffeine or tea have you consumed, sir?
I have drunk an awful lot of tea. It is technically already tomorrow now. It's gone past midnight. So yeah, this is bright and early for me.
Yeah, brother, you just power through. Just start your day. When we wrap up here, you just roll right into the day and being with the family and all that other stuff that you have going on over there. But seriously, I want to thank you for making yourself available. This has been a conversation that has been long overdue. So I'm glad that we were finding an opportunity to come together to have this conversation. So I'm actually going to start off with just a little bit of a softball for each of you. I'm literally going to ask you each the same question. And it is, in my mind, a very simple question, I think. And Rob, I'm going to go to you first. As you think about some of what has happened in your specific area, that being sports cards and comics, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the outlook for the foreseeable future?
You say that's a softball, but predicting the future is a little tricky.
No, we're going to dig into the details, but are you optimistic or pessimistic?
Spinning it towards your specific topic tonight regarding, the scandalous nature of the hobbies that we have chosen. I'm actually going to say, semi-optimistic to about the same as I was 2 to 3 months ago.
Okay.
Unfortunately, what I found with most of this stuff is that people tend to have very short memories and quickly forget after, a quick apology and whatever the next company is that does something stupid. The one previous to that kind of gets forgotten about. And I think we see that kind of on the regular. I don't know if it's good or not, but it seems to be the trend.
Right? It's like childbirth. That's why women keep having kids, because they forget how bad it is when they go through it, But I want to dig into the why you are a little optimistic in a few moments. But Luke, I want to now come to you and I want to ask you the exact same question. As you think about your area, that being comics and collectibles, toys, however you choose to characterize it, are you optimistic or pessimistic based upon the various scandals that we have seen over the last, make up whatever period of time, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, whatever it happens to be? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with your other guest here. I agree that people will just forget as time goes on. New things come on the horizon, new things come up. And the important thing here is that none of this is new. These scandals, this whole market manipulation, fake signatures, fake forgeries of any kind have happened throughout our collecting lives, even before our own collecting lives. They have existed for as long as the collecting hobby has.
Interesting thought. So Rob, going back to you, I mean, you said that when I asked you the question as to are you optimistic or pessimistic, the answer was people have short-term memories. Does that mean that you too are taking a more, this is nothing new, we've seen this before, this is to be expected, I'm going to continue doing what I've always done? Is that what I'm hearing you say in that response to my initial one?
Yeah, I would agree with what you just said. It may change the way I look or interact with a particular company. I may side glance them a little bit more. I may not use them, but in the general overall marketplace, it has not changed my buying patterns for sports cards or comic books. I would have more concerns over general market trends, economy, world events, kind of crumbling this house of cards than I would whatever the latest scandal is to come out.
So let me ask you this. How much faith and belief do you have in these scandals? And let me put some meat on the bone. And Luke, I'm going to come to you in a second. With a lot of this stuff, we have essentially heard one perspective, one voice, that being the YouTuber or whoever it is that is breaking this news, right? We haven't, I don't think, necessarily heard in all cases from the companies, from the other parties that are involved. I don't know that we've heard their point of view and their perspective. So is that part of what allows you to just continue moving forward and think about these bigger issues, because you don't necessarily know where the truth is, right? Because there's in any situation, there are two sides to the story at least, and we essentially only hear one. Is that part of what allows you to continue moving forward? Is that you don't necessarily know what the truth is? Is that part of it?
So I'm going to give you two different answers. One is I kind of always kind of go with where there's smoke, there's fire. So it's probably, maybe it isn't exactly the picture that the one side is painting. But maybe is it a sketch? Maybe it's in pencil. It's not in paint. And I don't know that we'll ever know the full story with any of these, because both sides have an agenda one way or the other, and it's your job to kind of figure out. Do you trust the person bringing it forward? What history do you have with the company? This, that, and the other thing, and just make your own best assumption that you can with the facts that you're given. And I think it would be foolish to take any one side blindly either way and be like, oh, yep, that's exactly what it is, or that's exactly what it is.
Right there. That one point of view is it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're going to give me two answers. That was one.
Correct.
What's the second one?
The second one is my general perspective and philosophy has been on this with any of this, cards, comics, whatever. And I talked about this in some videos that I've done, is if you can't stand in front of a mirror and say, if this whole merry-go-round and the music stopped tomorrow and all this stuff turns to dust and goes to nothing, if that would affect your ability to pay your bills, pay for your house, put food on the table, then you should probably reevaluate what you're doing in the first place. I have very strict rules that I only spend card or comic money on cards or comics at this point. Took me a little bit to get there, but I'm very disciplined in that. So if it all went away tomorrow, would it suck? Yes. But it's not going to affect my day-to-day life in regards to just getting through the week.
Your ability to feed your family and pay bills and all that other stuff.
Correct. Yeah. It would be terrible if it all went to nothing, but I could still live my life exactly like I was prior to getting into all this shenanigans. My general rule is I have fake money and I have real money. Real money is what pays the bills. Fake money is what buys this stuff.
Yeah. Well said. And it does take some time to get to that point where it is funding itself. You have to feed it, then it feeds itself after a little while. But Luke, I want to look at you. Rob made a point there about where there's smoke, there's potential fire, right? So we don't know the complete picture. We don't know the truth of what has happened, but it doesn't smell right. Do you subscribe to that philosophy as well?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything that was said.
You don't have to agree with him, Luke.
I know I don't have
to, but you don't.
I don't have to, but I do. What we've got to remember here as well is that within this collecting hobby, especially when people are looking at investments, the bar of entry to get into this hobby is quite low. The everyday person with a simple paycheck can get on board and can enjoy this hobby. And I think that these sort of scandals are a necessary evil that was bound to come up sooner or later in order to allow these people who may lack the same experience that a lot of us do, and allow them to see the dangers that are involved in putting your money into these things. Going back to how it would affect me personally, I only ever went out getting signatures or slabs myself in person, and that was because meeting the artist or the writer was what made that important. I'm not in it just for the book to invest or sell on later on. So I'm in the same situation as I've always been. I'm never really going to buy a yellow label book because it's the meeting of the people that matters.
So what you're specifically talking about there is the scandal that was the forged signature that was
Yes.
sent in by a third party company by a person that forged the signature to CBCS, and then it came back verified. What you're saying is that that specific scandal does not affect you because you're not, one, you're not forging things. Two, you're not buying these books yellow label. You are meeting the artist, collecting the signature, knowing that it is a legit thing. So that specific scandal does not affect you. Is that a fair statement for me to make?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was getting to.
Now, you just also put a really interesting spin on it that I don't know that I would have made that connection. And Rob, I'm probably going to come to you here as well to see if you think that this is a positive thing. But Luke, what you said there is that this scandal might actually be a good thing, specifically for new collectors who are coming into this eyes wide open, that are just like, hey, there is money to be made here. Let's buy some books, let's flip some books, let's sell some stuff, let's make some cash. What you're saying is that this might actually serve as a cautionary note, to serve as a type of educational opportunity for these new collectors that are coming in. Talk with me a little bit more about that, because again, I don't know that I would have spun it that way. I like it, but I don't know that I would have gone there. Thoughts?
Yeah, I just feel like comics are very much in at the moment, and back in the day, this was the sort of thing that used to get us picked on at school. You know, this wasn't the cool thing, but nowadays it is, and so many people are jumping in it from the idea of investment and making money. And you know, I feel like I said before, this sort of thing has always existed within the collecting hobby, whether it be sports memorabilia, cards, etc., even famous paintings being forged. You know, there are all these different things that can take place, and it's always existed. However, I think people have just got swept up within this hobby at the moment, especially with CGC, the MCU, comic books in general. I think we just needed a cautionary tale, and now we have one.
We have many, but I think your point's legit. Rob, I'm looking at you, brother. So what I'm hearing, Luke say here is that this might actually be a good thing. Again, you don't have to agree with one another. What are your thoughts on this being actually an educational lesson for people that are coming into the hobby? And there have been a lot of them. What are your thoughts there?
It's more like the Lord of the Rings full series of books at this point with all this stuff going on. I do agree. I mean, anytime you bring attention to this stuff, I think there's an opportunity for people to educate themselves on, the dangers of when you go into something like this, to know what to look for, what not to look for, what to maybe steer away from, maybe try to protect yourself a little bit. Don't go all in, buy the right things, buy from the right people, from the right companies, that sort of stuff. Anytime a spotlight is put on this stuff, there is going to be some good that comes out of it. Obviously, we just don't want the stuff going on, period, because then, it doesn't cause the issue to begin with. But I get where he's coming from.
The challenge is, if money is involved, there will be bad actors, right? And if there are bad actors, then people have to know how to protect themselves. And we may actually talk about some of that a little bit later in the conversation, ways that people can protect themselves. But Rob, as you think about the various scandals, and there have been a healthy number in comics and also in cards, is there a scandal or two that actually gave you pause, right? Because I'm hearing from the two of you that this is nothing new. This is kind of to be expected. People have short memories. People will get over it. But I'm curious whether there was a specific scandal or two where you saw it, you heard it, and you were like, oh no, this could be problematic. What are your thoughts there? And Luke, I'm probably going to ask you the same question.
Probably the one that probably had the biggest shakeup, I don't know problematic wise, but the one that probably had the biggest impact and the most ripples was the PWCC getting kicked from eBay. Just because that really had a lot of side effects to it beyond just PWCC getting removed, and then I think you talked about it. We've talked about this, was that a targeted move by eBay? Shill bidding's been a thing forever on that platform. Why now all of a sudden did they go after them? Dinging consumer confidence a little bit. So I think that was probably the one. It didn't really necessarily change anything that I was doing, but it was the one that made me go, oof, like this is not a great look in general, kind of almost regardless of who you are. It's a bad look for PWCC. in my opinion, it was kind of a bad look for eBay if you really kind of stopped and thought about it for a minute. You're like, wait, do you really care about shill bidding, or are you just doing this because they were probably going to go launch their own selling platform and it's just a really good PR move on your part? So that would probably be the one that stuck out the most. I know that there was you mentioned it in the in your preamble about the two numbered cards together. That one, I don't want to write that one off, but I could see that happening because they were supposed to pull those cards back and get them off the market because there was an auto pen issue with one particular player. So I'm guessing something just got lost in the shuffle on that one. We've never really seen that before. So I'm almost willing to kind of chalk that one up as a one-off. On paper, it sounds scary though.
It
like
does.
if you kind of didn't know and you just looked at it and you're like, wait, what happened? But if you ever kind of know the world a little bit, and know the situation, you could kind of chalk that one up to, I can understand how this one can happen, but probably the PWCC eBay thing was at least the biggest newsmaker of all of them.
And let's be honest, I think at the end of that video, both of the guys were like, the guy that was doing the show was like, so do you think this helps the value of these cards or hurts it? And both of them were like, we don't really know. But then the guy was like, yeah, I'd actually pay a lot of money for these two cards just because of the story behind it. So that's one of those things that actually worked out, right? But to your earlier point about two sides of the coin, different biased perspectives at play, the truth possibly somewhere being in the middle, the PWCC and eBay shill bidding thing, like that was a real thing, right? Because eBay has been a little heavy-handed as of late with some of the things that they're doing with not giving people access to the data because they want people to push their products, they want people to sell their products in order to get access to the data. And then to hear that PWCC is going to start their own platform, now they're getting kicked off after doing what they were doing for a long period of time. And it was like the worst kept secret in cards, period. It's interesting that eBay chose to play White Knight when they really probably are not. So I just thought that was a really interesting one, especially for you to actually point that one out as one of the bigger ones to be out there. And I still don't quite know all the ramifications of that, whether smaller shill bidders are going to be impacted, because shill bidding happens. We know that it happens. We spoke about it back in May. And the question is, will there be ripple effects? And I don't know that we've seen that, but I do want to pause to see whether you have any follow-up thoughts to what I've just said there.
No, I think you pretty much nailed everything.
Oh, that's wonderful for me then. Luke, I'm looking at you. So as you think about everything that happened, I mean, you cited one specific example around the yellow label and the grading company and stuff like that. But was there a scandal or two that gave you pause when you first heard about it?
Once again, sorry to keep agreeing, it was the shill bidding. That was one. I mean, for me, the CBCS comic book scandal was the main one, and that was mostly because it took part here in the UK. Yeah. I actually know a few of the people that were involved, not the direct guy who did it, but certainly the facilitators and people that he used. So yeah, that kind of had more of an impact on me because I was in it. I was kind of around. That being said, one thing that we have to think of, regardless of any of these scandals, if any of these scandals occurred and really did knock the system down and it was all game over and all of these books were suddenly worth nothing, all of these cards were worth nothing, there's always going to be collectors like us, collectors of passion, not so much investment, but passion collectors who are going to see this as a buying opportunity. And so these books are still going to be valuable. These cards are still going to be valuable. These signatures, regardless of whatever the company has done, are still going to be sought after by us passion collectors. So scandals aside, things are still going to be worth money.
Yeah, getting back to the scandal that you saw. Well, let's talk about the shill bidding for a moment. What was it specifically that gave you pause with the shill bidding? Was it the realization that this is a real thing? It's not a speculation. It's not a notion that people have had. It's actually like a real legit thing that has generated millions of dollars. Was that part of it? And also the possibility that it could be happening in your own collectible arena of comics and toys and collectibles. Was that the two parts of it, or was there something different?
It was kind of like, I've always known that shill bidding was a thing. Mm-hmm. I've always known in the background that has existed for many, many years in different industries of the collecting hobby. It's always been there, even at auctions and things like that. It's just always taken place. The thing that shocked me the most was that a company such as eBay allowed it to go on for so long.
Well, it was in their best interest. I mean, right? Let's be honest. The price gets jacked up, they make more money. Or maybe they just didn't know, right? Because again, there's some sides to this thing, or maybe they didn't have enough data to go after PWCC. Who knows what it was, right? But a lot of people benefited from it for a long period of time, without a doubt. Getting back to the signed book that was verified, how are there any ramifications to that right now over in the UK? Because again, this individual forged that signature, used a third-party facilitator to actually submit it to CBCS. He did not submit it himself. Have there been any ramifications to that? What are collectors over there in the UK thinking right now about this?
So that was our biggest problem with this experiment, with this whole idea, is that it's fine if you want to do it, by all means go and do it, but don't drag a small business through the mud with you. Over here, it's not the same as you guys. In order for us to ship all these books over to the States, in order to get graded, the timings to do stuff is drastically different, again, because of the whole departure from the UK to the States. And yeah, just all the paperwork involved and everything else. So there is only a select few facilitators that we will use in order to get this done. This particular facilitator has many fans, myself included. He's a really nice bloke. I'm not going to mention any names again because I don't think
we're all doing that on purpose by and large. Yeah, that's a good move.
But all of us, the minute we heard that this was happening, it was actually brought to our attention by the facilitator themselves. They openly came out and said, I've just heard word that this video is going live within 24 hours. The person has done this, 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 and this, and I have spent all day on the phone to CBCS in order to clear my name, in order for all this to go. So, with huge respect to the facilitator, all of us just boycotted it, and we didn't even bother watching the video. Yeah. We just said, no, you've harmed one of us. You've harmed someone from our community. We're not interested. And to be fair, the guy hasn't really achieved anything. Yes, he's got all these views. It's equated to very few subscribers, and all he's really done is dirtied his own name, because how can you trust anything from this guy moving forward?
And that's definitely
and what was quite humorous was at the end of it all, he was like, oh, I've got 3 books, but only 2 of them were fake. The other one being the first appearance of Miles Morales, first print. No, that one's real.
Yeah. That's
I don't think we can believe
very interesting, right? Was that in the second video or the first video? Do you know?
I believe it was the first video. I was under the impression there was only one video, so I'm not too sure.
He did an apology. He did an explanation video after that, right. So to kind of clear up some things, but it was a very interesting experiment, and we talked about it, and all of us that were involved had mixed emotions about, 1, watching it, and then 2, talking about it. And so we've never really mentioned the person's name. We didn't link to it because it just felt wrong. You know what I'm saying? So for those people that are joining the conversation, we are spending a little bit of time, not necessarily talking about the scandals per se that have rocked the collectibles markets as a whole, versus what we as collectors, investors, speculators might need to do in light of what has happened. And so that's why we have our 2 guests on, Luke from Hydra Collectibles and Rob, Neo Cards and Comics. So I want to go to you, Rob, real quick. There are people that are listening and watching this show. What advice would you give for them on how they should navigate through some of this stuff? And I say that because I don't believe that this is going to be the last scandal, right? To the point that Luke just made, there's a couple of things at play here. I have a scandal. I do something crazy. I get some views. That's a good thing for certain people. Companies are not as transparent, maybe as this facilitator was in the UK, to say, hey, here's what happened. Here's what I did. Here's what I didn't do. My point here is that we are probably going to see some more scandals. So as you think about this, Rob, how should other people that are watching and listening to this be thinking about the next scandal that comes?
I think educate yourself, which I think we're both big on, as best as you possibly can, with people you trust, if it's a content creator, or whether it's yourself, or you're get various takes on it. Don't try to stay out of an echo chamber as much as possible. And then, you know, like I mentioned earlier, always protect yourself. Don't over leverage. Don't get yourself in a position that if something would go sideways that would cause the value of whatever it is that you're looking at, you know, to crash, are you okay with that? Or is that going to put you in a place that you don't want to be in? And if that's the case, then maybe hold off or save up a little bit longer or sell something before you buy, whatever. I think the interesting angle here too, which is what I've been thinking about a lot lately, and this is very unique to people like us, what if this was one of the companies that I've associated with, you know, as an affiliate or a sponsor, or, you know, how would I approach that? How do I protect myself before beginning to work with a new company or partner? Which is completely different. Most people don't need to worry about that, but it's something that's actually been the biggest thing going through my head probably recently with all this, more so than the general impact like on the market itself. Once again, that's a very unique niche problem, but I think it's a big one, kind of. I really don't know how to handle. Like I've been thinking, like, luckily so far, no one of the ones that I work with has gone through any of this stuff, but I haven't been put in that situation yet. But I've been thinking, like, if I was, what would I do? I guess it would probably depend unique on exactly what was going on, but yeah, that's kind of set my head spinning more so than the general market stuff.
I can't even tell you how much time I've spent thinking about some of that stuff. You know, one of the things that I've been thinking about is investing in certain companies within our space. And all I think about are the conflicts of interest that could arise. The challenges that should something like this happen, that, you know, you have to think about those things, because it's not a big market. It's really not a big market. You know, when you really think about it, there's only so many players that are out there that are in a position to do sponsorship and things like that. And so it is tough to navigate. And I certainly don't have the answers, but should you arrive at a good one, you let me know, please, because I could probably use the assistance in thinking about some of this stuff. But you cited a couple of things there. You cited educating yourself, don't over leverage yourself, and just be cautious. Those were maybe the three things that I kind of heard from you. Luke, as I look at you, what advice would you have for collectors, investors, speculators that are out there for the next scandal that comes? How can we navigate our way through the next one that lands in our laps, which could be tomorrow? Who knows?
I think it's going back to what we touched upon earlier, which is, if this all did come crashing down around us, would you be happy with what you're stuck with what you have left? And again, I do believe that this is different for certain people. You know, we have two very specific types of collectors. We have passion collectors, like I said before, and then we have investment collectors or businesses. And obviously for those people in the latter section, that's going to be a harder pill to swallow should this all occur. But I think the important thing is like you just keep saying, educate yourself, look into things, and don't rush. You know, we're all so quick and eager to jump on the next biggest thing. And it's that FOMO, it's that fear of missing out. And sometimes it is worth just letting the dust settle. And even if you are paying a little bit more to then get the item, if it's something you truly want or you feel that you can make a profit on in the future, again, if you're a business, then make the decision then. Don't rush into things. Take the time, do the research.
I swear you're like a little angel on my shoulder, because I have a deal on the table that I've been vacillating on over the last 2 hours, 3 hours, right? I want it, but I'm like, do I really need it right now? Should I keep my powder dry for this other thing that I want? You know, so I think you raised some good points there. Let me ask you this, and Rob, I'm going to have the same question for you in a hot second. But Luke, as you think about these things, are you doing anything different now as a result of what has been happening over the last whatever period of time? Or have you changed how you're collecting, how you're buying, or are you doing essentially what you've always done, but maybe with a little bit more care?
I'm basically doing what I always done. I'm quite a cautious person. You know, I don't have a great deal of money to splash out everywhere. So my approach to signatures is the same. I would rather meet the person and see the person. And I know that is my book being sent off. And again, I only slab not for the grades, but for display options and stuff like that. So that's a completely different story. And then when it comes to bidding on eBay, you know, again, with the shield bidding, I tend to look at an item and say, this is how much I'm willing to to set aside, and I will bid that amount, and I don't then go back and bid more. I bid that amount, and that's it. Like, if I lose out, I lose out.
Yeah, that's why for me personally,
nothing's changed.
There we go. That's why I don't do auctions, because I want to win. And I'll get out of control and I'll start bidding, and I can't do that. And I haven't done that in a very long time, because I realized that my personality in auctions just don't work. So I don't do them. It is buy it now. Either I can afford it and buy it, or I don't, and I walk away. It's super simple for me, because I know how my personality is. Go ahead.
And I think that's the most important thing is there as well. Like, not only doing your research, but knowing yourself, knowing what your limits are, knowing what your mentality is like when you're put in those situations. Again, it comes down to that FOMO, or that need to win. And if you're that sort of person, you need to take caution. And that, again, it's with all these new people coming into the hobby, that's what we got to watch out for. They need this cautionary tale.
Love it. Rob, going back to you, brother. One last question for you here. Have you changed anything that you've done? Are you doing something different as a result of these scandals, or are you just continuing to do what you've always done, just maybe a little bit more cautiously?
More so the latter. Like I said earlier, it's given me some pause on potentially signing up for, this new vaulting service or whatever, because they had a little something slimy go on. So I'm like, maybe I'll just wait a little bit longer. I don't have to use that right now. Let me see how this shakes out. I'll circle back with you in a couple months. I think it's more back to the previous discussion that we had. I think it's affected me more as looking at it from the content creation side in regards to that sort of stuff than it has going out and buying a new CGC slab or a PSA 10 or whatever. I think it's affected me more there than it has in regards to like buying and selling habits.
Got it. Because you did just buy a really big book just the other day. So I didn't think it had.
Right there.
So that is Giant Size X-Men #1. And that's what is it, a 7.0 or 7.5?
7.0 white pages.
Very nice, brother. Very nice. Clearly, you're not slowing down, because that's a big book. No,
that was a couple. I mean, that wasn't like an overnight thing though. I looked for it for a month, and I grinded out the money to buy it with. So it wasn't.
And you sent me the message, and I was like, brother, all I know is about is 3.0. And you were like, no, I don't want a 3.0. I was like, hey, they would think it was like the next day you were like, got my 7.0. I was like, oh, go for it. But no, I think that's wonderful. I think it's also your point about, it giving you a little bit of pause with the companies that you choose to work with. I think that is a really interesting one, because it demonstrates that not everyone has a short memory, right? That there are some ramifications to this, and you taking a little bit of pause and saying, do I really want to work with you? Do I have to work with you now? Can I wait a little bit? I think that's a really interesting take, because a lot of people, I think, will just run to the next thing. They'll just keep doing what they've always done without making any adjustments in any way, shape, or form. So it's really interesting that the scandal, at least in this instance, has put a little bit of taint on that company. And we'll see how long that lasts, because I'm certain that you'll keep your eyes on it and you will continue to evaluate it and make appropriate decisions. All right. I think that's basically all the questions I have for you guys. I think that you guys did a really good job of like representing each of your perspectives. So I want to thank you for that. Luke, before I let you go, where can people find you on the internet? Should people try to track you down at a more reasonable hour versus the midnight hour that is right now in the UK?
Yeah, so Hydra Collectibles, where we let our geek flag fly. And you can find me here on YouTube under Hydra Collectibles, or you can find me over on Instagram. They're pretty much the two places that I reside. And yeah, we try to put out a video at least once, maybe twice a week. We're not as big as you, Reggie. We don't do the 5 days a week. It's only me on my own here with the kids every day. So
very good.
No, yeah, Hydra Collectibles. Come check us out.
There we go. And Rob, where can people find you on the internet?
Neo Cards and Comics is the YouTube channel. That's probably the best place to track me down. I'll say nearly daily content, mostly sports cards, but I do throw in some comic book / Marvel trading cards stuff at least about once a week, give or take. Just cracked the 10K sub barrier this past weekend, so hit the big milestone there.
I did see that.
And Yeah. Regarding today's topic, a little behind the scenes thing, something I always tell Reggie is whenever these companies do stupid stuff, we're the ones that benefit the most because it's endless content.
There is an upside to some of this scandal is that we never run out of things to talk about. I honestly, as much as I like it from a content creator standpoint, I'm okay if they want to just tone it down just a little bit. Just, skip a month. Skip a month with the scandal. I'm good with that,
Yeah.
So again, gentlemen, I want to thank you both for joining me. I'm going to have my next two guests come on in just a moment after we get to this little commercial break. Bear with me.
This is James Tynan giving a shout out to Regie Collects.
So we are, that was really short. That didn't give me time to do much of anything. But if you are just now joining us, we are spending a little bit of time, not necessarily talking about the various scandals that have impacted the collectible market, but we're talking about what we as collectors, investors, and speculators might want to do differently, how we might want to change how we're behaving, if at all, right? Because you have the option of not necessarily changing anything if you don't necessarily believe that these scandals are that big enough to warrant that type of change. But I want to welcome my next two guests onto the show. My brother Wayne from Canada. It is good to see you. Squirrel Madness, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing well. What is that red shirt you're wearing there, brother? What is the red shirt?
Greatest American Hero.
I was getting.
I know it's a Mickey Collect shirt, but I'm repping really old school. So
he just took me back. Oh,
Steve,
my God.
Steve, calm down, brother. What did you do? He was like, "Whoa." Steve, it is good to see you, brother. How are you?
Always good to see. I am doing great, brother. I am great. I mean, I survived the flood of New York, which was amazing. But I'm doing great.
Brother, I was watching, I was on Instagram and I saw Chris Claremont barefooted in his flooded house. And I was just like, man.
I had to save a lady from the corner. She had water up to here.
Brutal.
And it was brutal. It was bad. I'll send you a video. You won't believe it.
I actually have a video coming out that I've purposely been holding just because I don't want to try to take advantage of some of the bad stuff that is happening out there, that I'm actually holding back. And I may release it next week. We'll see whether some crazy stuff happens, but it is related to some of this natural disaster, crazy stuff that we are seeing out there right now. There's a guy selling his entire not his entire collection, but a lot of his collectibles in order to get his house back in order after.
I saw that. I started following him on Instagram. Yeah. I started following to see if I could help out.
I felt like I should just buy something. Just to be like, let me help you. You know what I'm saying? But
the beautiful thing is he didn't move in his stuff just yet. He was supposed to move in that day. Yeah. And it was crazy. But anyway,
crazy. So again, I want to thank the two of you for coming on. I know that you guys heard the first conversation that I was just having. I know you both were in the green room there. So I want to go first to you, Steve, and ask you the question. Wayne, then I'll come to you next. Are you pessimistic or optimistic about what the future holds for your area of collectibles? Steve?
I'm in a positive mood.
Okay.
I don't care about the scandals. I don't care about the this and that. It happens everywhere. Wherever there's people can make money, there's somebody going to try to take advantage of it. Okay. Do we really know that the Mona Lisas that's sitting at the Louvre is actually the Mona Lisa? Do you know that?
It better be, because I spent a lot of time in line trying to look at her in her face.
Yeah, well, you don't know. Like, I have a bunch of books. From CBCS that came back, the signature grade books. I love them. I'm like, oh my God, they're gorgeous. I don't care. Like, because my thing is that you have to, it's an investment. Let's say you're taking it as an investment. Everything is a chance. The stock market is a chance. You literally just bought a house. You just bought a home. It's literally a chance you're taking, right? So you don't know what could happen.
No.
So it's an investment. It's an investment. You took a chance, and I've never dabbled in the stock market as much as I am now recently. Mm-hmm. And every now and then I look, I'm up, ooh, I'm down, ooh, I'm up, ooh, I'm down. You know, so it's like it's a chance. It's a chance with everything. So if everybody, this guy sent out a book and it came back with a yellow label. Okay, somebody made a mistake. Or He could have switched the yellow labels for all I know. I don't know what he did. I don't know who this person is.
I think Wayne may have actually made that point while we talked before. But Wayne, I'm going to go to you. Are you optimistic or pessimistic, or are you like Steve and like, hey, whatever happens, happens? What are your thoughts?
I'm optimistic. In
Wow.
whatever happens kind of way. But I'm overall, I'm very optimistic. It's a point I would have made myself that Steve made, which is this kind of like scams and stuff are as old as time itself. You can make money, people will take advantage of you if there's a chance to take advantage of people. There's just a certain sector of the population that are like that. It's just a matter of going in with open eyes, a game plan, and being smart about the purchases that you're making. Know what you're buying and know what you're willing to pay, and do as much research around that purchase as you can, and protect yourself. But you know what? As long as you're a careful buyer, I think for the most part you'll get away scot-free.
Hey Wayne, let's try to shut down some of your apps if you have multiple apps or screens open, because your audio is breaking up every few seconds. It's
sorry. No, this is the only thing I have on.
Okay. So Steve, I'm actually going to go to you. Maybe it'll clear up here in a second. So what I heard you say is that these scandals are nothing new, right? This is par for the course, right? We should kind of sort of expect this, better or worse, right? If money is involved, there will be bad actors. But I'm curious whether there is one scandal specifically, or maybe two scandals that actually gave you pause, that gave you that, oh, this could be bad type of feeling in your gut.
Oh, of course, the CBCS situation with the thing. I have a bunch of them here. I was happy as everything to take all my books, send it to them, and I got them back. I'm like, whoo! And then this guy pops up and like, look what I did. And I'm like, and it makes you pause. It makes you pause for a second, and you go and you look at your collection, but then you realize that people are people. People make mistakes. Either he got very lucky and that someone messed up, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna make a video, and everybody's gonna love me because I cracked these people. Ha 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 ha. It's a business at the end of the day. Try that with a Stan Lee signature. Try that with a Kirby signature. And let's see what happens.
And I think Wayne or somebody made this point, like he picked the easiest signature. I think that was somebody's point, right? Is that he picked the easiest one to kind of forge. It's like three letters, right? Like a bubble,
Right. So no. I mean, even if he meticulously worked on Stanley's signature or worked on Kirby's signature and got it to the letter, you think they're not gonna take a magnifying glass to that and really pay attention to it? Yeah. This is what people got to seem to understand, is that this is their business. This is what they do for a living. This is how they put food and bread on the table, So they're not going to let their company fall apart because there's one guy. He may have just made them step their game up and like, okay, now we got to check things and make sure things are a certain way. We're going to double. Listen, technology is going to step in, I think, and really clean up a lot of this. And like we talked before about this, Reggie, like I feel like there should be a program or something that pretty much scans these books, and there's a grading system across the board with it. Maybe one day that'll happen. But right now, it's human error that you're taking on. It's human error. Like I saw a guy recently, he got upset because he cracked his slabs and he sent them to CBCS thinking he was going to get a higher grade. He got a lower grade. And I'm like, dude, like you took a chance
and you lost.
I saw that
because you lost. Grading comics is part art, is part science.
Right.
That's like the practice of medicine. That's why it's called the practice of medicine.
Part
art, part science, which means it can go any couple of ways. It doesn't automatically just get better for you, right? And to your point, you play in the stock market, you play in alternative investments. You might win, you might lose. These are the chances and risks you take. Wayne, I saw you nodding your head a couple of times as Steve was waving his hands around there. What thoughts do you have?
Sorry, I'm trying to think of which part. When can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Yeah, around the CBCS gradings or the verified signature scandal, to be honest with you, I'm not even 100% sure that it happened the way the guy said it happened. I just have this. You don't come out with a video all of a sudden, out of the blue, who are you? And my first thing is, look what I went and did. And look what I'm going to try to do and show off that I did this amazing thing. And look, I'm showing up the whole community. Yeah, or you got it back, you popped it, you put a new thing in, closed it up again, and said, "Look what happened." Like I don't know. I just have a bad feeling. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And,
if he potentially were somebody that you were familiar with and knew personally, kind of sort of to Rob's point, what was your experience been with this person, your connection? Maybe it would have been more believable. The fact that this was his very first video was a forgery video. It just doesn't always make you feel good about someone's justification for doing what they were doing. Go ahead with the rest of your thought, though.
Oh, just that, what he did was kind of underhanded, and I don't think it does, as previous guests have said, it didn't do anyone a disservice other than him.
Yeah.
And it doesn't shake my faith in CBCS's verified grading. I don't use the service myself. I have several signed books that I thought about popping into them just to see. It doesn't change my mind about doing it. I believe the genuine signatures, and I believe I'll get a red label. But I if they came back and said no, I'd be like, okay, I tried. And to Steve's point, the only thing about Steve said that I have an issue with is the idea of having like a program that monitors these. Because I mean, if I write my signature once and I write it 10 times in a row, the 10th one's going to look very different from the first one. So I don't know if a program's going to catch that kind of how you felt that day. Was your arm hurting from your first to your 500th fan that came up with books for you to sign? It may vary. So I don't know if a program would catch all the nuances of someone's signature. But I feel like you got to trust the graders to do their job, because as you said, that's their bread and butter, that's their business, and they have to sort of make sure the business is viable. So they can't go around just saying whatever they want. They have to have something they can sort of stand behind.
So you piggybacked off of Steve's thing, but my original question was around, was there a specific scandal that gave you pause? What was the CBCS the one that gave you pause, or was there a different one?
WADA, and I'm not even a game collector.
So let's just be super clear, because it may be a little hard for people to hear. What you just said was it was the WADA scandal, the WADA market manipulation scandal that gave you a little pause. Talk to me about that and why.
The potential market manipulation, the idea that so many people from different companies that have an interrelated relationship, leaders of companies, leaders of auction houses, potentially leaders of websites that are involved with valuation or posting valuation of product, all may have worked together to manipulate the market to create a false sense of value in product. Now, we're talking video games, but that's as applicable to video games as it can be to comics.
Yeah.
And I think the potential that many people could come up with an intricate plan and actually look like they succeed in taking a video game that should only be worth a few thousand, 10,000, 50,000, and make it sell for 2 million just by talking to the right people, the right media outlets, creating the buzz and word of mouth, and becoming the only point of contact for that discussion. It's a little scary because it could feed through to sports cards, comics, and any form of collectible.
Now here's my challenge with that, and Steve, I'm gonna come to you in a second. My challenge with that is, the guy told a really good story in that video, and he connected a lot of dots, but that was his point of view. And I don't know whether his point of view and his dots were connected in all the right order, right? But to Rob's point, my previous guest, where there's smoke, there's fire, it gives you a little pause. But it's like, did he tell us the unbiased truth? I don't know. Steve, I want to go to you. Like, we just talked about the WADA thing. Did that one give you pause in any way, shape, or form? Or is that one you were like, not my industry? I'm gonna keep it moving?
I mean, it gave me pause, but have we heard of insider trading in the stock market? Like, this stuff happens. Like, this guy talks to this guy. That's how they set things up to be this colossal company. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, oh my God, I need to get on this stock market and this, that, and the other. It happens. It happens with every single thing, every product in your house, every car that's driven, everything. Everybody tries to be the best at something, and they manipulate. Some people try to manipulate their way through it. They try to manipulate their way towards it. So it didn't really pause me, like, especially now, like, now that you've seen, Reggie, the picture I sent you with all them comments. I'm in the game, so it's like, I'm selling stuff, and I'm not trying to, sell it to, to be like, trying to make a fast buck and stuff. Yes, I'm trying to make some of my money back, but I'm mostly in it to help people, so it's like, you know, it's gonna happen. There's gonna be a book that blows up out of nowhere that I just threw in a corner somewhere and then just put it away. Wait, no, not threw in a corner, because Reggie says that
no trash books.
No trash books that I put away in a bagging board, and then next thing you know, you're like, wait a minute, why is this book blowing up? And you don't know why. It could be market manipulation, it could be speculation, it could be anything. You don't know. Everything is speculatory, you know. So it doesn't bother me as much. It's just, it is what it is. It's the way the world works right now.
This whole thing is really tough, right? It gives me pause because, you know, I spend a great deal of time like trying to be transparent and not appear to manipulate things, but you know, somebody could tell a really good story about me and connect me to other YouTubers that are out there doing other things and to other companies because I'm affiliated with those companies and have spoken about those companies. It's like Rob kind of made this point, was that's sort of one of my biggest fears, is that someone could decide that they want to interpret my actions a certain way that isn't accurate. You know, but it's somebody's point of view, it's somebody's perspective, and that's what makes these scandals so dangerous, is that we don't know what the truth is. And my big question to both of you is, do you think that these scandals have the potential to erode collector investor confidence in these various hobbies? And I think your answers are going to be no for yourselves, but I want you to think about the masses. Do you think that these things have the ability to erode? And Wayne, I want to go to you first. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I don't think so, because I think there's just so many collectors out there with so many goals and so many reasons for being part of whatever hobby that they were in, that they collect, that those scandals are at like almost like at a high level that, you know, 85-90% of collectors don't even think on that level. They don't think about, well, I wonder if my video games were $2 million. They're like, you know, I went and bought some books at the dollar bin today because I wanted to fill in my run of Fury of Firestorm. Like, yep. No, I don't think so. And I think higher end collectors, ones who may be dabbling in the price range that some of these ones may be affected by, they know how the system works. They know what they're looking for. They know what to pay for. They know where to go. They know who they like to deal with, and they have their feet in it, and they can protect themselves. They're not going to be affected by the scandal. It's a short-term problem. It'll go away. People will forget about these things until the next one comes up, and then they'll forget about that one too.
Steve, what are your thoughts? Do these scandals have the ability to erode collector investor confidence in collectibles?
Even if it does, we're going to take that one collector who says, okay, this is scaring me, I'm out, I'm done. But what is he going to do with his collectibles? He's going to sell it to another collector.
To me or you.
Exactly. Or somebody who's getting into it and finds out about it and it's like, oh, I'll buy all this. So now you just replace one collector with another collector. So or let's say he sells it to you and I, and we turn around and sell it to someone else. So now you're just spreading the love all over the place. It's gonna keep going. As long as there's things to collect, people are gonna. There's stuff people collect that we don't even think about.
Collectors collect.
Right. That's it. People collect rocks. Like, you know, it's just, you know.
I don't want to know those people. I'm just okay. I don't want to know them. All right, but what about investors and speculators? Do you think that this thing has the potential to erode confidence for those individuals? Because you isolated collectors there for a second, and I thought you were about to go to the other
speculators. The speculators are going to enjoy it because it's going to raise the people are going to be like, oh, what's happening over here? And they're like, and they're waiting over here for you to say, yes, we want this. And go, I have all of these. Here you go. Buy. It's not. I don't think it is. It's not going to do anything to the market. You know, it's just, if anything, let's say there was a scandal with God forbid, with let's say CGC, the top dog, and some grader was drunk or something of that nature. Let's just say, you know, and everybody found out about it. You know, it's like, oh, you know, or better yet, when they had the video when the guy was, you know, remember when he was flipping through the book real fast? Yeah. Remember that? Everybody's. He ain't got no gloves on.
He got promoted. He's president now.
Exactly. Everybody lost their minds. All right. Not realizing that this guy handles books all the time. You know,
without understanding why he wasn't wearing gloves,
Exactly.
to feel for the glue, to feel for surface dirt, he's not wearing gloves. That is crazy.
Right.
I don't even wear gloves. I hate
Right.
gloves because my hands
Right.
get sweaty. Right.
Right. Exactly. It doesn't make sense, and people just don't realize like what goes into everything. So until you have all the facts, everything, and even when you have all the facts, you only have it from one side.
Yes.
You know, you don't have it from the other side. And at the end of the day, you make your own judgment calls.
So let's talk about that, right? To the point, and I made this point earlier, with a lot of these videos, a lot of these scandals, we only essentially hear one side of the story. That is the person with the microphone that is making essentially the accusations or the case or whatever it happens to be. What do you think, and I'm going to go to both of you with this one, what do you think that companies could do to protect themselves, if anything? Is there a way for them to protect themselves against these types of videos coming out? And I honestly don't know the answer. There's only one thing that I can think of, but Wayne, I see your mouth moving there, so I'm going to go to you first.
I honestly don't think, I think their best action is no reaction at all, to be honest with you, because if they acknowledge these videos, then they're almost tacitly saying, yeah, there's a problem. They shut up and don't say a word, then they're just like, somebody's just talking out their rear, and there's really nothing to look at here. I mean, like when I talk about the water one, I mean, when you think about it, I think they spoke to collectors, like genuine collectors, and even the person who did the video. I think they're old school in the way they collect and how they view the collecting, and I think they're just hurt by the seeing the valuation of the product, that they felt that they had this almost like ownership of how to collect and how to view collecting video games, and now these new upstarts are coming in and raising the values, and you know, so I think this, you know, even though it makes you raise your eyebrow, I think it also, you have to look at, like you said, from both sides, that there's another way of looking at what's their angle for doing the story. But no, I think companies, the best answer is no answer at all, to be honest with you. I mean, the only one, something like the PWCC, for instance, maybe as a company would need to say something because the level of the scandal. But things like the distribution of stuff in Walmart packs, which we talked about before, really doesn't get an answer from Marvel. Why would they? It doesn't matter. It's
Marvel's
like all drop in the bucket. And
yeah.
Even the water thing, like Heritage shouldn't have to say anything. Nobody should have to say anything. It's making the problem a real problem if they do say something.
Steve, I see you smiling. Thoughts?
I was thinking about the 3-pack thing. I was like, good. Like somebody found a jewel. They're like, oh my God, look what I have. Like, good. You know, it just, listen, it's not like he said, just don't say anything, because this guy is a drop in the bucket. This person is a drop. Like the scandal level, it depends on how high the scandal goes. But it's like, if it's not on your radar, just be like, all right, you know what? This guy said something. Yeah, internally, you may want to look into it and be like, okay, what's going on? Did this get past us? You know, was it a mistake? Yeah, boss, it was a mistake. All this business. Fine, let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
But
all right?
publicly.
Right, but publicly. And you watch that guy. If he submits other things, now you're on my radar. Now I'm watching for you to submit books in. And he's not going to be able to. He's going to have to get it from other people to submit for him and this, that, and the other. It's just, it makes no sense. It just doesn't make sense. But, you know, as a company, I wouldn't sweat it. I personally wouldn't sweat it. I just, business as usual, just keep it pushing.
The one thing that I would offer up to all these companies that have the potential to get swept up in scandals, and technically we all do, right? Whether you are a content creator, and I'm looking at 2 of them, or you are a company involved in this industry, just try to be as transparent as you possibly can be.
Absolutely.
Like that's one of the best things that you can do for yourself, because Wayne, to your point about the people that are involved, potentially each one of those people has a responsibility and a right to talk to the others, because they're all heads of these big companies. They should talk. But if you don't disclose that you're talking and that you have a relationship, when somebody comes back and says, aha, this person knows that person and that person knows that person, therefore they're colluding, now you all look dirty. And now where there's smoke, there's fire. Without the transparency, it puts you at risk. And if you don't have anything to hide, try to be as transparent as possible about board of directors and all of that other stuff, to maybe take some of that stuff off the table and say, you know what? No, we disclosed it. We talked about it. We shared this information. It's on our website. There's nothing here. Thoughts on that, Wayne?
Oh, and I was thinking about the CBCS verified signature scandal, like something CBCS could easily do that is kind of a response, but not a direct response, is to post on their website. This is the verified signature process. Here's all the steps that we do to verify your signature. Here's the number of people we have who are involved. Here's the certification to be able to do this. Yep. This is how carefully we look at your product when you send it to us and entrust your product to us, out of your hands to our hands, do our job. And that's really a response. And that's again, to your point about like auction companies or whoever saying somebody's on a board of directors, WAD, or somebody's on a board of directors, just make it public. Like, I mean, be honest and transparent. But yeah, just respond without responding in a way by just verifying how careful you are and professional you are about the job that you do.
But essentially what you just said there was a form of transparency.
Yeah.
I'm just being transparent about my processes for verifying the signatures. Like, how is it done? Does anybody have any clue?
Isn't it a third party great person that verifies
it's Beckett. It's Beckett's internal thing, but is it a database of like 30 different signatures that they have on file for Jack King Kirby? Because to the point there's variations. It shed some light on some of that. And the danger there is probably they don't want to give too much information away because now you're enabling competitors. So there's that balance between intellectual property of the company and the need to be transparent. But maybe there's a way.
Forgers.
Say that
That's
again.
what I was going to say. You're teaching the forgers. Yeah.
Yes. There you go. That's the other part of it. And so that might be why we haven't heard a response to that one, nor have we seen the level of transparency to understand how that is done, is because they're actually trying to take precautionary measures to prevent more yahoos from doing what this guy just did, But again, this has been a wonderful conversation. I want to thank the two of you for shedding some additional light on like how we should be thinking about these scandals and what we should be doing differently, if anything at all. So I want to thank you both for that. And Wayne, I'm going to go to you first. Where can people find you on the internet should they want to subscribe to your channel and all that kind of stuff?
I can be found on YouTube at Squirrel Madness Comics and on Instagram at Squirrel Madness _comics.
There we go. And Steve, where can people find you, brother?
I am at Instagram at s.cange, CANGE. And you can also find me at Comic Book Cartel on Facebook. We just started this group, and the group is just awesome. I love you guys.
I wasn't sure if you were going to talk about that one. So
those are my peoples. I just bought this collection. Regie just saw it. I'm not at 100K like some people, but I'm almost there. And Comic Book Cartel is really great. We try to help everybody achieve the collection. And honestly, I just finished my Spawn collection, and it wouldn't be without them. There was no way I could have did it. No way at all. So we try to connect everybody to everybody and just try to get you a great price. So that way you can finish these runs that you really want to do.
There we go. And again, I thank both of you guys. I absolutely appreciate it. Well done. And I will talk to you both soon. Okay.
All right, brother. Peace. Take care.
Thanks. All right. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed this conversation. It went a little bit long, mostly because I was interjecting and interrupting folks as they were talking. But hopefully you enjoyed this conversation. And again, this whole thing is not just the focus on the scandals that took place versus what should we be doing differently? How should we be thinking about these things? Because again, I don't think that we have reached the end of these scandals. I think potentially we are going to see more of them. And I will tell you for a fact that I am still very much optimistic about this hobby. I love reading and collecting comics. I am continuing to buy and sell comics and continuing to make videos because I enjoy all of this stuff. And these scandals, they are what they are. And we've actually spoken about this before. Anytime money is involved, you are going to get some bad actors. You're going to get some people that are trying to take advantage of folks. But that's also why we need to continue doing our due diligence. We need to continue doing our research. We need to continue to educate ourselves on what is the right price to pay for something, what is happening in the market, who are some trusted people to get advice from, who are some trusted people to buy comics from and collectibles from. So these scandals, to Luke's point earlier, might serve as a really wonderful reminder for some and also a true initial education for others. So I want to thank each and every one of my guests for representing themselves and their perspectives incredibly well. By and large, they all agree with one another, which is a little bit of a surprise to me. I honestly did not know which way they were going to go with this thing, but I enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did as well. And as a reminder, we're going to rebroadcast this thing on the podcast. It'll be released next Monday. So if you are interested in listening to this back on playback, you can take some Regie on the go by searching for Regie Collects on your preferred podcasting platform. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.